Hi, this is part 2 of the siblings project. I got Natasha and Carol, two little female girls, 6 years old and 8 years old. When I was doing my programming, I was making sure that I was having some fun activities. That way they can feel like they are having fun while they're working on motor development. But I also had some specific activities as well that mainly were focusing on the movements. Like I had the strength portion, which was the squats, the jumping jacks, the sit-ups. That was kind of like more strength stuff. But then I also had some games in there as well. For example, I had like a hopscotch game. I also had leapfrog, and just trying to find different ways to still keep them entertained, but we're still working on their motor development, their core skills, and their jumping skills. So by the age of 6, kids are usually by now jumping and skipping, not really galloping. Galloping comes a little bit later because it is kind of a harder task, but I did put some galloping tasks in my programming. By the age of 8, kids already got the jumping down. So that's why I was focusing a little bit more too on measuring certain things like how far they're jumping, hopping on the one leg over the other. I did focus a lot also on the single leg work, just because I think it's really important to make sure that we're well balanced with the right foot and the left foot. Especially little kids tend to jump off, for example, jump off their left foot all the time rather than jumping off their right foot or landing on their left other than their right, or vice versa. And just having like a specific week and programming of just single leg work, I think it's really beneficial. So yeah, like I was saying, having that single leg work I think is extremely beneficial, just to be able to gain the strength and the mobility in both legs rather than having one leg stronger than the other, which tends to be a problem as we get older. For example, me personally, I'm 25 and I know that my right leg is way stronger than my left, and I have been working on balancing that out. I also really tried focusing on strengthening both of the hands. As we know, usually when you're starting to learn how to write, draw, hold a pencil, you do choose one hand over the other, you favor one hand over the other, and then it just kind of leads on with life. You brush your teeth usually with one hand, you eat with the one hand. So for me personally, my right hand is a lot stronger than my left. So I did focus on making sure that the gross motor skills were being worked on for both hands, and I did this by a lot of Play-Doh work. So what I did was I had them, for example, roll a little Play-Doh ball with their fingertips. Make sure you do that on both hands. I had them roll a big Play-Doh ball on a table in a circular motion, and I had them do that with both hands as well. Just kind of working on really dialing down and making sure that both hands are going to be strong and they both have really good functioning and mobility rather than one hand being stronger than the other. I know that I had a lot of beam work as well for the balance portion of the core skills, and the reason I did this was because although it could be really challenging for the 6-year-old, the 8-year-old is able to walk in a straight line at this point very independently, and she is going to be a little more independent, so she would probably strive a little bit more with the balance beam drill. But I believe that the 6-year-old, with enough practice and enough practice on the low beam that I set up in the programming, she would be able to confidently start walking in a straight line. Even if she's not confident on the balance beam, I also had them set up another programming the week prior to the balance beam, which was the tape on the floor and just working on walking in a straight line, and also working on the heel to toe walks as well, which is progressions to the beam. I also did focus a lot on the strength portion, like I mentioned earlier. I believe personally that the strength portion of any programming for kids is definitely going to be very, very important. Not number one necessarily, but it is very important just to try to start getting good mobility and good movement out of kids. I personally have worked with kids in a PE kind of environment, and I do see little kids start picking up bad habits young and then working their way up, and they never fix that habit. For example, picking things up with a rounded back, or squatting down inappropriately, and then they grow up with knee problems and stuff like that. So I did add a lot of strength portions into their programming, making sure that it's something that the 6-year-old and the 8-year-old can do, such as a proper squat, pushing the hips back and down. I also had some jumping jacks in there because jumping jacks are a little bit harder on the coordination part for the 6-year-old. The 8-year-old should be pretty independent on doing so. I also had some walking lunges and push-ups and sit-ups. I know that the sit-ups are really hard for the 6-year-old, and that's why I had them having the parent holding onto their feet while they attempted that sit-up, just because it is a little bit more challenging on the core strength portion for the 6-year-old. The 8-year-old might be able to master this on her own, depending on what her abilities are as far as physical activity. For the 8-year-old, we're also really going to be looking for the proficient jumping. So, like I just stated earlier, that the 6-year-old, really all we're going to be focusing on with her is just making sure that she's getting the progressions and the jumping skills down, whereas the 8-year-old, we're really going to focus on getting the proficiency of the jump down and showing that she can clearly jump just fine by herself independently, whether that's a long jump, a skip, a hop, a leap, or something like that. So for the siblings assignment, I mainly really just stuck to using my textbook. The reason I did this is just because I'm really confident with the textbook, and it has all the information that I needed as far as the jumping skills, what would make it a proficient pattern, and stuff like that. So I mainly used this, and I also used a little bit of just my personal knowledge from working with kids in the past and working on specific motor development patterns that I've personally used myself when I was a behavioral technician. So yeah, and this is my siblings project, and I hope you enjoy, and I hope I do good.